badass. And all the last 3 knives we released, I thought were great. I'd come up with the designs. This one is my favorite. Clean, amazing. And this will never fail you. This doesn't lie. It's stainless steel, highest quality, razor sharp. And the blade is a wicked 10 inches long. So you want to defend yourself? You want to get the business done? This is a killing knife right here. I mean, this is what people that know what they're doing use. This right here is savage. This is basically a Roman sword. This is how it's really done right here to defend yourself. Okay, this is it. So get yours. It'll sell out quick. Support the broadcast. Largest selection of Patriot apparel. Commit to the broadcast by becoming a VIP member. $30 a month. Get $40 for in the store. Commit to it. Cancel anytime. VIP membership. Do it now. TheAlexJonesStore.com, and I'll never surrender.
We'll join our regularly scheduled program after these messages.
Think about the accomplishment that the corporate media is trying to obscure of oil prices dropping more than $30 a barrel just since he got in the last 56 days to $65 a barrel. Think about eggs dropping now more than $2 a carton since Trump got in. That is Trump administratively going in and undoing as fast as he can the things that the Great Reset, WEF, New World Order, BlackRock, Combine, that's who's really running things, not Joe Biden, the puppet, Mr. Autopin. I mean, this is really amazing. Trump is doing a better job on the economy quicker than I thought, but he understands he's got to have momentum. The globalists are trying to crash the economy to stop not just our populist revolution, but populist revolutions around the world. And that's why listeners and viewers have to understand, and I know you know this, but really get it consciously in yourselves. We're winning major battles. We haven't won the war. That's why we have to intensify our efforts. Normally, when a Republican gets in, and most of them were milquetoast or traitors, people go to sleep and then the left comes back. This is an ongoing major political realignment, not just here, but globally. And we've got to stay engaged. And that means sharing the reports, sharing the videos, sharing the information, sharing the truth, and supporting Trump, Elon, and other independent media like Tucker Carlson and myself. And you do that at thealexjonesstore.com with the very best supplements, the widest selection of Patriot apparel, and so much more. I can't fight the deep state that's still trying to shut us down desperately. I can't continue with this crew and the incredible work we engage in, reaching 30, 40, 50, 100 million, sometimes more people a day, without your help. And we're on record. The bad guys admit this, so do the good guys. Being the folks that built, that means you too, the platform, the runway, the foundation, the launch pad of what Trump, Elon, and others are doing at levels just that are amazing. We are dismantling the globalists. Their system's over. The only question is, can they cross into their grave with them? And they're trying to do it. So please support the broadcast. Please share this report. Remember, you decide what gets out. You decide, because you're the Paul Reveres, and you decide whether we can stay on the air. And you need to become a VIP at thealexjonesstore.com. $30 a month, cancel anytime, get $40 to spend in the store, special offers, special deals, special sales, and then you commit to month, you cancel anytime to get the special offers and special deals, and it reminds you about how great the products are. It reminds you of how they've empowered your life, and then if anytime you want to stop, you can with one click. But I'm asking you to commit, like I've committed to our shared destiny together, at thealexjonesstore.com with the VIP. You can also subscribe to supplements like our Ultimate Sea Moss, Ultimate Turmeric, Ultimate Shilajit, all the very highest quality super nutrients that do incredible things for your body. These sell out quite a bit because the quality's so high it's hard to source them. But when you are a subscriber to them, it just bills you every month. You cancel anytime if you want to stop. You lock in even better deals and sales on it and prices, and then they hold it back for you at the warehouse in Arkansas. That way, you always get the Irish Sea Moss, the Shilajit, the Ultimate Turmeric. These are amazing. Widest selection of Patriot apparel, so much more. The AlexJonesStore.com, because we are all in this together. And you don't just get Trump in and then he fights lower inflation and fights to bring industry and jobs back. We've got to continue to fight in the info war. It's because you got off the bench, you voted, you spoke out, you stood up to the bullies, you didn't care what they said, you called them on their mind control bluff, that we're having these victories. But you've got to support the epicenters of the fight, and InfoWars is one of those, and I can't do it without you. So thank you so much for your support at thealexjonesstore.com. All right, right. There is a massive concerted effort in the corporate media, the establishment media, including Fox News, to put out skewed fake polls. You look at all the other polls, and Rasmussen is the most accurate. Trump's tariff plan is extremely popular, but it's just every 5 minutes on Fox. During the break, I was getting a cup of coffee and a glass of water, and it was just nonstop. I saw it early this morning. I saw it late last night. I saw it yesterday. It's just everywhere. You turn the channel to CNN, it's the exact same thing. So they're really trying to say that's unpopular because that's the globalist power in the last 40 years. They went and made deals with totalitarian countries like China and others, and third world countries like Mexico, and also first world countries like Canada, to have one-sided trade deals. In general, it's about 95% to 5% ratio. Mexico, 90+% of their sales, exports are to us, 5% to them, from us. They bring in 5% of their stuff from us. Similar number with Canada. Look it up. One-sided total screw jobs. We have the worst economic policy in the world. We were the greatest industrial power on the planet. In 1950, we were 4% of the world's population. We still are, by the way. Look it up. And we had 50+% of the wealth, and it was not with the ruling class. Yes, they were extremely wealthy, but it was a gigantic middle class. Middle classes never existed till we invented it. Until the 70s, when they started accelerating economic decline by design, upwards of 60% of the population was what you'd call middle class. Now, if you look at real numbers, our so-called middle class is what, 20%, 30%? So it was easy to become middle class. That's why everybody wanted to come here. 100 years ago, we were the richest people per capita. 150 years ago, we were the richest people per capita. 200 years ago, we were the richest people per capita. Because we got rid of the ruling class. You know, we didn't go to war over the tea. That was just a protest they did over that tax. That's a lie. You couldn't do a business deal, a big business deal, domestically or foreign, if you weren't a lord. And so if you had to go literally to the lords, and if they didn't accept you into their private club first, and then you would be invited to their home for a banquet. That's why in their houses in England and here in Europe, they'd have a huge wing for the hall. That's their little court. And then you had to agree to all their political things and cultural things, and then they might buy your tobacco. They might buy your cotton. They might buy your leather goods. They might. Did you know until 1776, there was no legal manufacture of firearms in the colonies? Not in Virginia, not in Massachusetts, not in New York. Nowhere. The empire controlled the countries it ran by not letting any of its commonwealths produce any finished good. You can only produce raw material. Globalism is the opposite. They don't let the former parts of the imperial governments, French Empire, Spanish Empire, British Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, they don't let us produce any real finished goods, very limited. We're only allowed to export raw material. They do the same thing in Africa and in Eastern Europe, Romania. Romania, we've had their top economist on, who also won the presidency, so they just arrested him and took him off the ballot for the new election. Călin Georgescu. He's a former chief economist at the Club of Rome, kind of an insider, exposing them. He left 15 years ago. Former top UN economist over their global carbon tax program. Oh, they're pissed because he joined us. 90+% of Romania's raw goods, milk, eggs, grain, everything, is exported. Romania exports timber, they have to import it back. That's globalism. And it's very similar to how the empires controlled people before. And it's an extension of this model. The American system, and the reason there was a revolution, go read George Washington's writings, Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, human liberty, right to defense, that was all there too. But the big thing is, read the Declaration of Independence, for civil and criminal cases, you had to go to England on a ship. Read the Declaration of Independence. His Majesty makes us get on ships and come there for the smallest issue. George Washington wrote countless letters. He's a very capable man. And even in the British system, became one of the richest men in the colonies. They would make you buy a full carriage. It was equivalent, like today's numbers, $1 billion. Literally, look it up. Just like a whole bunch of pounds of gold to get one. I think things particulars, but it was equivalent of just like $1 billion. It was insane. It had to be the certain dark green or certain black. Had to be shipped on a ship from England. You had to buy it from a certain place. You had to wear a certain set of clothes made in London from a certain group of clothiers that cost the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars today. You had to bow perfectly. You had to do all these other things, hundreds of them. You had to wear a pinky ring, all these things you had to do. And then you had to go kiss their ass to even have them let you engage in business. That's why we had the war. It was businessmen that did it. Sam Adams, the biggest brewer in the country at the time, had to give almost all his money to a lord who would then, you can look this up in the history books, do stuff like slap him in the face in front of people at dinner. These big, badass, hardworking men. You look at George Washington. I mean, he was like 12 years old out doing surveys in Indian country and, you know, his team fighting wild Indians and, you know, it's just incredible stuff. And he surveyed much of Virginia and then out into other states himself. And he wasn't allowed to have land. He wasn't allowed to ever own a company. They wouldn't even take him in the British military. He was in the British military. They would never make him an officer. They wouldn't let him into their official scout groups. So the point is that it was the class system that we wanted out of. It was about getting into a meritocracy. And now Trump is bringing back the American system. And that's what they don't want. But George Washington did it. He went and bought the $1 billion, in today's money, green carriage. He wore the shoes that cost $50 million in today's numbers. He wore the $200 million clown outfit. He let these little rats, who they describe as like inbred, so inbred, their eyes point in different directions. Literally, that's like known as the British Royal Lazy Eye. Ooh. You see it lampooned in movies and stuff. Oh, Lord, Chip, oh. And they're just sitting there going, this has got to stop. And that's the exact same globalist system today, but it's the Harvard elite, the globalist elite, all these people, and they're sick. And Trump didn't come up through them. Trump didn't come up through the globalist system. He hates them. And so this is a real American revolution that's happening. And it's extremely exciting. And you go to Drudge, that again is the news desk of the New World Order now. Whatever you see there is what the CIA Barack Obama, the New World Order wants you to see. And what does it say? The war on Musk globally. Musk is going down. It's all over. Ha, ha, ha. We've got him. And then you've got, put it on screen, please. Then we've got Musk world under attack. And then they put out maps of Tesla owners with the cursor over it with Molotov cocktail and where they live. Terrorism. And then they lie and say, he wants your Social Security cut. No, they said there's millions and millions of people that are dead, 150 years old, 120 years old. So you or your representative have to go show ID for suspicious accounts every few years at the Social Security office, or you can do a Zoom meeting or whatever. That's what you do to stop fraud. That's not Social Security cuts. That's saving Social Security. So they're going after Trump. They're going after Musk. They're going after all the main talk show hosts and people that are exposing what's happening because they can see, and they talk about this on CNN years ago about me and others. We noticed Jones, they'll have the reports of the last 20 big, insane reports of disinformation. 18 of them started at InfoWars, and they go, here's examples. And they go, Jones says it here, or his host says it there. They put the article out here. And then 2 weeks later, it's on Fox, and then Trump's saying it a week later. Yeah, but it isn't fake news. Remember the stories? They claim Soros is getting USAID money and running the open borders. It's in all the documents. That was one of the things they were mad about. And now, boy, don't they have a problem? It's been discovered. We put some money in to stop it. By discovered, it's been discovered by the general public. So these are fabulous successes we've had. But the reason they want to intimidate and sue and harass now hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people is they want to scare others away so they don't fight. And because they know that it's those people finding all these stories, finding all these reports, digging through documents that gives the human intelligence research network that Trump needs. And then when Trump and his people get the data and then go check it for themselves, but we do the research and package it all right there with the proof, we're the human intelligence. So we don't have a CIA title. We don't have a government card in our pocket. We don't have a Harvard degree. No, we just live in the real world, and we're in an information war with the truth, and our truth crushes their lies. And so that's why they do all of this. And I know you all understand that, but the power comes from the people. And the power comes from so many folks out there that just have seen the corruption and said, well, I'm going to go out with a camera where this derailment happened since nobody's covering it and talk to locals. And Nick Sordor was a real estate agent. And he went and showed interviews and put them on Twitter then, and it exploded because the corporate media wasn't doing its job. And now the guy reaches 100 million people a day around the world. And so they're SWAT teaming him and his family and his dad and his sister and coming at me. But he's just going to fight harder. He's just one example. And so how many Nick Sordors? How many Laura Logans? How many Laura Loomers? How many Jack Posobics? I saw Jack didn't even have a microphone putting out stuff that I saw on YouTube, getting like 1,000 views. Oh, that guy's really smart. He knows what he's talking about. Hey, let's get him on the show. Hey, man, I'm going to send you a $100 microphone so you have an external microphone that sounds good. Hey, why don't you, come to us with and then look at him today. Right-hand guy of the president. See, I'm here to recruit people to join the fight. And it's not about joining me. It's about joining humanity. And it's about finding the talent and boosting them. And that's why the bad guy said, this son of a bitch has got to be shut down. I mean, I remember even 5 years ago, 2 years ago, most patriot or populist talk show hosts were very territorial. They would never go too far, and they would never defend another host under attack because they were kind of like, well, that's less competition for me. Competition for you. We're going to live in a hellscape tyranny literally forced to eat bugs in 15-minute cities, and they're going to burn us out in most areas and literally cut our sons' dicks off. If you people don't understand, we're in a total war. I've known that for 35 years. I don't say that like, gee, aren't I smart? I'm like, get with the program, people. A few percentage of people really get it now, and maybe 30, 40% get a lot of it, and 50, 60% don't trust the government anymore, but they're only half away. And just with those numbers, we're wrecking them. And then they persecute Elon Musk. They persecute all these other people, large and small, and what do most of them do? They get more pissed off, more active, more aggressive. But the tyrants only have that option. They're not going to give up. They know they're all going to go to prison. So these are two powerful forces colliding into each other. The options are you could go join the globalists who are so evil and so backstabbing and who are falling apart, or you can sit on the sideline. That's the worst place to be, in the middle of the road. Or you can join the good guys right when we've turned the tide and are winning. But I want to beat these people. I don't want to be number one. I don't want to be at the cocktail parties. I don't want to be wearing a tuxedo at Mar-a-Lago. People are like, you're not going to come? You're not going to come and be recognized? I'm like, no, I'm reaching everybody. And the minute I leave, they're going to send in armed people to close the doors illegally. So every time I leave, they do it. I'm saying I respect it. I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. I don't need to be recognized. What I need is your backing and your support. I am a soldier. I am a field commander in the battle for the Republic and the future of our species. This is deadly serious, folks. And then you've got Elon Musk, who is officially destroying their system in live time, and they are coming after him with everything they've got right now. And if they're able to take him down, what message does that send to everybody else? You're next, and you will be next. Right down to you and your family. So you need to back me, you need to back Musk, you need to back Trump. And if I see somebody else burning down under globalist attack, I'll say back them. But right now, under the enemy attack is Trump, his family. They call people influencers. A Steve Bannon, a Jack Posobiec, a Charlie Kirk. Each one of them has 10 times the audience of CNN. Joe Rogan has one 50, 60 times in the numbers. On an average day, we're 30 times bigger than CNN. We're bigger than all their channels combined. A Nick Sordor, 10 times bigger a day than CNN. We're not influencers. We're independent pundits, analysts, journalists, reporters, human beings who are trying to wake up and rally humanity to fight these globalists. And this is fifth generation warfare. We are in the big war. Let me go into the news here, but all of that is capillary. All that is side issue. It's all pieces of the larger issue. And when we come back, I'm going to do this. I'm going to quantify who the players are, what the war is, how it works. Then I'm going to hit all the really good news, some of the bad news, but there's a lot of really exciting stuff going on. I mean, it's just amazing. And again, here's the headlines. Alex Jones, bankruptcy judge, rejects latest InfoWars asset bid. Alex Jones affiliated company strikes out on third try to force sale of InfoWars Sandy Hook case. And again, the Democrat Party that runs this, they say, we don't want money, we object to a sale to anybody, we want it closed. We don't want money, we want it closed. So they can then run around and say he's not giving us money forever and play victim. Don't they want me off the air. All right? Here they are, and they're filing 2 weeks ago saying, we don't want InfoWars to stay on the air, we don't want Alex Jones to have a job. Is that what you get in the civil cases that are still on appeal? No, you don't get that. But that's what they admit they want. total naked tyranny and the fruit of show trials while I was already found guilty. Total fraud. This is the lawfare of the lawfare. So here's the deal. If you fund us and if you support us, regardless of what happens to InfoWars, we're going to continue on. The place to do it is thealexjonesstore.com. So it really just comes down to this. We have a new limited edition classic trench knife that is exclusively available at thealexjonesstore.com. The last time that we have had these, they sell out in about a week. There's only a few thousand of this. Each rollout has its own inscription on both sides, laser etched. On one side, it has a Spartan with tip of the spear. It's powerful. I love it. I designed it. On the other side, the classic InfoWars. And they shut this down. Boy, these originals are going to be even more powerful. So get yours today at thealexjonesstore.com. And I was told we had a graphic of this. Yeah, there it is. Tip of the Spear t-shirt bundle discounted. So you basically get the t-shirt for $10 or $12. And it's got the Spartan with the American flag, tip of the spear. That's the bundle at thealexjonesstore.com. And this is a piece of history. This is a high-quality stainless steel, double-edged, large dagger with the brass knuckles, the skull crusher. You talk about a defense system that never gives out and that doesn't lie. This is it, and it's a piece of history. Get yours now at thealexjonesstore.com. While you're at it, get the Ultimate Turmeric gummies that are back in stock, the Shilajit that is there as well, and so many other amazing products. Become a VIP for $30 a month, get $40 to spend in the store, huge discounts and more, cancel anytime. Go now to thealexjonesstore.com to fight the globalists at point blank range. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
So constricted blood vessels too, because athletes are running, they're constricted, they're working so that the blood flows and it doesn't flow, which is why your nitric oxide product, that new products, I hope you'll show it, because that's a very important thing to have for acute events. Dissolve under the tongue, give you an instant relaxing of your endothelium, your vasculature.
We got in stock, amazing, one of the top sellers ever, Nitric Boost that cleans out your heart, your arteries, your veins, your capillaries. It is so important to fight heart attack, stroke, everything. The compounds in this, Dr. Judy Mikovits has said, is the very best formula out there. And we don't pay her to say that. She's not involved, but just saw her on other shows talking about it. She's like, this is like the best formula I've seen. You looked at our nitric oxide. I saw it was the top rated. They let us private label it. You've looked at our formula. You like it?
I did, and I do, yes. Well, nitric oxide is a key. It's made by our own bodies again. It's made by L-citrulline and L-arginine, the amino acids. Just like you want your own body to make vitamin D from the sunlight, you can't force it back in. In people who can't make it, it can actually hurt them. It's called peroxynitrites. So you want to boost your own body's ability. The nitric oxide relaxes the endothelium, the vasculature. It relaxes the vein. So I use the two. Your InfoWars, I keep that on my shelf, and I feed myself the Cardio Miracle, which is just for straight food. It's a different formulation than that one, and the two together are a 1-2 punch. So you get in your food the ability to make what you need and no more.
Totally flushes you out, and it has all these other health benefits, and men will really notice it in the morning. I'll just wake up with, you know what, this is spectacular. Imagine what else it's doing for the rest of your body. It is back in stock at InfoWarsStore.com, and your purchase is critical to this broadcast. So please go to InfoWarsStore.com. In a moment, I want to just break down briefly for people that don't seem to know this. I'm always shocked by how many people don't understand this. It's just mainline admitted history, but maybe 1 out of 100 people even understand a little bit of it. And if you don't know who you're up against or what their philosophy is, then how are you going to beat them? Knowing who the bad guys are, as G.I. Joe says, is half the battle. But Zelensky is run by NATO. We'll explain who really runs NATO in a moment. And he keeps saying, this is like at least 10 times now in the last 60 days since Trump got in, 59 days, he keeps saying, yeah, I'll do a ceasefire. Yeah, I'll do the mineral deal. Yeah, I'll do this. And then he always goes back the next day. So Zelensky just came out with the head of NATO and is fighting Trump's ceasefire efforts, saying Russia must return all territory gained since 2014. He calls that his red line. This means forever war, because the Russians aren't giving up those eastern areas that have always been part of Russia. They're not giving up Crimea. That's their main base on the Black Sea. And again, until Lenin created Ukraine, made it its own country, it was always part of Russia for 1,000 years. That's where Russia started. But with all the German invasions and the rest of it, they were under Nazi occupation for a while. There are a lot of people that think that they shouldn't be part of Russia. If anybody's got a claim to it, it's Russia. Like Belarus has always been part of Russia. That's why it's called Rus. But they're more northern, more Scandinavian, so they call them the blonde Russians. Bela. White. Oh, that's the white Russians over there, and that's the Ukrainian Russians over there, and that's the, I mean, it's ridiculous. And the West started it. Everybody knows that. It's got a brain. Militarize Ukraine to the teeth. Finnish president. So they're not stopping, and that's why Trump's saying the U.S. is going to stop being the supreme commander, the U.S. president. Trump's really the supreme commander right now of the actual military operation. And we may just have to completely leave it, because the EU is, other than communist China, the big tyranny, and they admittedly are coming into China's orbit now. And all the big stock market money, record levels, been flooding there since Trump got in 2 months ago. Ukraine bombs Russian airfield 435 miles from front line inside Russia, where Russia houses nuclear bombers in largest drone attack ever. The base in Ingles, which dates back to Soviet times, hosts Russian Tupolev Tu-160 nuclear-capable heavy strategic bombers known unofficially as White Swans. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drones attacking. Russia Ingles Air Base ablaze after Ukraine drone strikes. And when we heard Putin with Trump's call a few days ago was launching an attack during it, the Ukrainians had launched a giant attack during it. But again, the media told you something else, but the next day admitted the truth. So here's what's going on. China was a vassal of Europe for the last few hundred years. There was a puppet system in there. And at the end of World War II, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers went and funded Mao Zedong and put him in charge in 1949. In Russia, the globalists, proto-globalists, British intelligence, had funded Lenin in the October Revolution in 1917. So that was their project too. Then they used the threat of that to build up a police state here. And it was when Joseph McCarthy figured that out that then they went after him and destroyed him in the media. How are you going to beat him? Knowing, so you basically get the t-shirt for $10 or $12, and it's got the Spartan with the American flag, tip of the spear. That's the bundle at thealexjonesstore.com. And this is a piece of history. This is a high-quality stainless steel, double-edged, large dagger with the brass knuckles, the skull crusher. You talk about a defense system that never gives out and that doesn't lie. This is it, and it's a piece of history. Get yours now at thealexjonesstore.com. While you're at it, get the Ultimate Turmeric Gummies that are back in stock, the Shilajit that is there as well, and so many other amazing products. Become a VIP for $30 a month, get $40 to spend in the store. Huge discounts and more. Cancel anytime. Go now to thealexjonesstore.com. to fight the globalists at point blank range. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
So constricted blood vessels too, because athletes are running, they're constricted, they're working so that the blood flows and it doesn't flow, which is why your nitric oxide product, that new products, I hope you'll show it, because that's a very important thing to have for acute events. Dissolve under the tongue, give you an instant relaxing of your endothelium, your vasculature.
We got in stock, amazing, one of the top sellers ever, Nitric Boost, that cleans out your heart, your arteries, your veins, your capillaries. It is so important to fight heart attack, stroke, everything. The compounds in this, Dr. Judy Mikovits has said, is the very best formula out there. And we don't pay her to say that. She's not involved with it. I saw her on other shows talking about it. She's like, this is like the best formula I've seen. You looked at our nitric oxide. I saw it was the top rated. They let us private label it. You've looked at our formula. You like it?
I did, and I do, yes. Well, nitric oxide is a key. It's made by our own bodies again. It's made by L-citrulline and L-arginine, the amino acids. Just like you want your own body to make vitamin D from the sunlight, you can't force it back in. In people who can't make it, it can actually hurt them. It's called peroxynitrites. So you want to boost your own body's ability. The nitric oxide relaxes the endothelium, the vasculature. It relaxes the vein. So I use the two. Your InfoWars, I keep that on my shelf, and I feed myself the Cardio Miracle, which is just for straight food. It's a different formulation than that one, and the two together are a 1-2 punch. So you get in your food the ability to make what you need and no more.
Totally flushes you out, and it has all these other health benefits, and men will really notice it in the morning. I'll just wake up with, you know what, this is spectacular. Imagine what else it's doing for the rest of your body. It is back in stock at InfoWarsStore.com, and your purchase is critical to this broadcast. So please go to InfoWarsStore.com. In a moment, I want to just break down briefly for people that don't seem to know this. I'm always shocked by how many people don't understand this. It's just mainline admitted history, but maybe 1 out of 100 people even understand a little bit of it. And if you don't know who you're up against or what their philosophy is, then how are you going to beat them? Knowing who the bad guys are, as G.I. Joe says, is half the battle. But Zelensky is run by NATO. We'll explain who really runs NATO in a moment. And he keeps saying, this is like at least 10 times now in the last 60 days since Trump got in, 59 days, he keeps saying, yeah, I'll do a ceasefire. Yeah, I'll do the mineral deal. Yeah, I'll do this. And then he always goes back the next day. So Zelensky just came out with the head of NATO and is fighting Trump's ceasefire efforts, saying Russia must return all territory gained since 2014. He calls that his red line. This means forever war, because the Russians aren't giving up those eastern areas that have always been part of Russia. They're not giving up Crimea. That's their main base on the Black Sea. And again, until Lenin created Ukraine, made it its own country, it was always part of Russia. For 1,000 years, that's where Russia started. But with all the German invasions and the rest of it, they were under Nazi occupation for a while. There are a lot of people that think that they shouldn't be part of Russia. If anybody's got a claim to it, it's Russia. Like Belarus has always been part of Russia. It's why it's called Rus. But they're more northern, more Scandinavian, so they call them the blonde Russians. Bela. White. Oh, that's the white Russians over there, and that's the Ukrainian Russians over there, and that's the, I mean, it's ridiculous. And the West started it. Everybody knows that. It's got a brain. Militarize Ukraine to the teeth. Finnish president. So they're not stopping, and that's why Trump's saying the U.S. is going to stop being the supreme commander, the U.S. president. Trump's really the supreme commander right now of the actual military operation, and we may just have to completely leave it, because the EU is, other than communist China, the big tyranny, and they admittedly are coming into China's orbit now. And all the big stock market money, record levels, been flooding there since Trump got in 2 months ago. Ukraine bombs Russian airfield 435 miles from front line inside Russia, where Russia houses nuclear bombers in largest drone attack ever. The base in Ingalls, which dates back to Soviet times, hosts Russian Tupolev Tu-160 nuclear-capable heavy strategic bombers known unofficially as white swans. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drones attacking. Russia Ingalls Air Base ablaze after Ukraine drone strikes. And when we heard Putin with Trump's call a few days ago was launching an attack during it, the Ukrainians had launched a giant attack during it. But again, the media told you something else, but the next day admitted the truth. So here's what's going on. China was a vassal of Europe for the last few hundred years. And there was a puppet system in there. And at the end of World War II, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers went and funded Mao Zedong and put him in charge in 49. In Russia, the globalists, proto-globalists, British intelligence, had funded Lenin in the October Revolution 1917. So that was their project too. Then they used the threat of that to build up a police state here. And it was when Joseph McCarthy figured that out that then they went after him and destroyed him in the media. They were happy to say, oh, there's Russians, there's communists, but when he discovered that the Pentagon was actually funding Russia and it was all the big banks, he went, whoa. And that's all the congressional record. So now we fast forward, fall of the Soviet Union, the globalists were looting it, they thought they had it under control, Putin was able to get in, kicked most of them out, stopped all their DEI, stopped all their anti-human crap. But in the meantime, NATO rolled up and took over all the countries around them and staged coups and has all these weapons on their border. NATO and the EU are a conglomerate of the old money of Europe and what's left of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire after World War I and World War II under the Bilderberg Agreement with what's left of the British Empire and the new American Empire that was put at the center of that control system. And this is in all the big historical books and things. It's not even debated. The public doesn't understand this. NATO is the biggest child trafficking group with the EU. They're the biggest narcotics traffickers next to the CIA. I mean, they're just as bad as it gets. And they needed a reason to expand globally, not just continue. So they've said their business model is continued war with Russia, which is insane and dangerous. Then they can use that by saying anybody that's opposed to their policies is a Russian agent to take their rights away, like you've seen them do here. And so the CIA started getting busted the 60s, 70s, and 80s running its own clandestine operations. This came out in the senatorial Frank Church committee hearings in the 70s. And so they were already working with the Marshall Plan Corporation, that is the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperative Development. And that's over the International Bank of Settlements, and that's the clearinghouse over the International Banking Consortium that owns the main central banks of Europe, the UK, and owns the controlling stock in the private Federal Reserve. So they had that beachhead in 1913. They were merging us with the British Empire after that. But those are the policies of that conglomerate that have sold out America, sold out people of Europe, opened the borders up, brought in all these illegal aliens, the DEI, the deindustrialization program to get the West poor and under their control, the Great Reset. And so the CIA is openly getting its funding out of the OECD that set up the unelected EU Commission, that set up NATO. The first group at the end of World War II set up is the OECD. Then the OECD sets up NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The OECD, how are you going to beat them? Knowing who the bad guys are, as G.I. Joe says, is half the battle. But Zelensky is run by NATO. We'll explain who really runs NATO in a moment. And he keeps saying, this is like at least 10 times now in the last 60 days since Trump got in, 59 days, he keeps saying, yeah, I'll do a ceasefire. Yeah, I'll do the mineral deal. Yeah, I'll do this. And then he always goes back the next day. So Zelensky just came out with the head of NATO and is fighting Trump's ceasefire efforts, saying Russia must return all territory gained since 2014. He calls that his red line. This means forever war, because the Russians aren't giving up those eastern areas that have always been part of Russia. They're not giving up Crimea. That's their main base on the Black Sea. And again, until Lenin created Ukraine, made it its own country, it was always part of Russia for 1,000 years. That's where Russia started. But with all the German invasions and the rest of it, they were under Nazi occupation for a while. There are a lot of people that think that they shouldn't be part of Russia. If anybody's got a claim to it, it's Russia. Like Belarus has always been part of Russia. It's why it's called Rus. But they're more northern, more Scandinavian, so they call them the blonde Russians. Bela. White. Oh, that's the white Russians over there, and that's the Ukrainian Russians over there, and that's the, I mean, it's ridiculous. And the West started it. Everybody knows that. It's got a brain. Militarize Ukraine to the teeth. Finnish president. So they're not stopping, and that's why Trump's saying the U.S. is going to stop being the supreme commander, the U.S. president. Trump's really the supreme commander right now of the actual military operation, and we may just have to completely leave it, because the EU is, other than communist China, the big tyranny, and they admittedly are coming into China's orbit now. And all the big stock market money, record levels, been flooding there since Trump got in 2 months ago. Ukraine bombs Russian airfield 435 miles from front line inside Russia, where Russia houses nuclear bombers in largest drone attack ever. The base in Ingalls, which dates back to Soviet times, hosts Russian Tupolev Tu-160 nuclear-capable heavy strategic bombers known unofficially as White Swans. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drones attacking. Russia Ingalls Air Base ablaze after Ukraine drone strikes. And when we heard Putin with Trump's call a few days ago was launching an attack during it, the Ukrainians had launched a giant attack during it. But again, the media told you something else, but the next day admitted the truth. So here's what's going on. China was a vassal of Europe for the last few hundred years. There was a puppet system in there. And at the end of World War II, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers went and funded Mao Zedong and put him in charge in 49. In Russia, the globalists, proto-globalists, British intelligence had funded Lenin in the October Revolution 1917. So that was their project too. Then they used the threat of that to build up a police state here. Ridiculous. And into China's orbit now. Into China. But with all the German invasions and the rest of it, they were under Nazi occupation for a while. There are a lot of people that think that they shouldn't be part of Russia. If anybody's got a claim to it, it's Russia. Like Belarus has always been part of Russia. It's why it's called Rus. But they're more northern, more Scandinavian, so they call them the blonde Russians. Bela. White. Oh, that's the white Russians over there, and that's the Ukrainian Russians over there, and that's the, I mean, it's ridiculous. And the West started it. Everybody knows that. It's got a brain. Militarize Ukraine to the teeth. Finnish president. So they're not stopping, and that's why Trump's saying the U.S. is going to stop being the supreme commander, the U.S. president. Trump's really the supreme commander right now of the actual military operation, and we may just have to completely leave it, because the EU is, other than communist China, the big tyranny, and they admittedly are coming into China's orbit now. And all the big stock market money, record levels, been flooding there since Trump got in 2 months ago. Ukraine bombs Russian airfield 435 miles from front line inside Russia, where Russia houses nuclear bombers in largest drone attack ever. The base in Ingalls, which dates back to Soviet times, hosts Russian Tupolev Tu-160 nuclear-capable heavy strategic bombers known unofficially as white swans. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drones attacking. Russia Ingalls Air Base ablaze after Ukraine drone strikes. And when we heard Putin, with Trump's call a few days ago, was launching an attack during it, the Ukrainians had launched a giant attack during it. But again, the media told you something else, but the next day admitted the truth. So here's what's going on. China was a vassal of Europe for the last few hundred years. And there was a puppet system in there. And at the end of World War II, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers went and funded Mao Zedong and put him in charge in 49. In Russia, the globalists, proto-globalists, British intelligence had funded Lenin in the October Revolution, 1917. So that was their project too. Then they used the threat of that to build up a police state here. And it was when Joseph McCarthy figured that out that then they went after him and destroyed him in the media. They were happy to say, oh, there's Russians, there's communists, but when he discovered that the Pentagon was actually funding Russia and it was all the big banks, he went, whoa. And into China's orbit now, the new American empire project into China's orbit now. And all the big stock market money, record levels, been flooding there since Trump got in 2 months ago. Ukraine bombs Russian airfield 435 miles from front line inside Russia, where Russia houses nuclear bombers in largest drone attack ever. The base in Ingalls, which dates back to Soviet times, hosts Russian Tupolev Tu-160 nuclear-capable heavy strategic bombers known unofficially as White Swans. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drones attacking. Russia Ingalls Air Base ablaze after Ukraine drone strikes. And when we heard Putin, with Trump's call a few days ago, was launching an attack during it, the Ukrainians had launched a giant attack during it. But again, the media told you something else, but the next day admitted the truth. So here's what's going on. China was a vassal of Europe for the last few hundred years. And there was a puppet system in there. And at the end of World War II, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers went and funded Mao Zedong and put him in charge in 49. In Russia, the globalists, proto-globalists, British intelligence had funded Lenin in the October Revolution, 1917. So that was their project too. Then they used the threat of that to build up a police state here. And it was when Joseph McCarthy figured that out that then they went after him and destroyed him in the media. Ridiculous. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drones attacking. Russia Ingalls Air Base ablaze after Ukraine drone strikes. And when we heard Putin, with Trump's call a few days ago, was launching an attack during it, the Ukrainians had launched a giant attack during it. But again, the media told you something else, but the next day admitted the truth. So here's what's going on. China was a vassal of Europe for the last few hundred years. And there was a puppet system in there. And at the end of World War II, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers went and funded Mao Zedong and put him in charge in 49. In Russia, the globalists, proto-globalists, British intelligence had funded Lenin in the October Revolution, 1917. So that was their project too. Then they used the threat of that to build up a police state here. And it was when Joseph McCarthy figured that out that then they went after him and destroyed him in the media. They were happy to say, oh, there's Russians, there's communists, but when he discovered that the Pentagon was actually funding Russia and it was all the big banks, he went, whoa. And that's all in the congressional record. So now we fast forward, fall of the Soviet Union, the globalists were looting it, they thought they had it under control, Putin was able to get in, kicked most of them out, stopped all their DEI, stopped all their anti-human crap. But in the meantime, NATO rolled up and took over all the countries around them and staged coups and has all these weapons on their border. NATO and the EU are a conglomerate of the old money of Europe and what's left of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire after World War I and World War II under the Bilderberg Agreement with what's left of the British Empire and the new American Empire that was put at the center of that control system. And this is in all the big historical books and things. It's not even, but the oath stopped all their DEI, stopped all their anti-human crap. But in the meantime, NATO rolled up and took over all the countries around them and staged coups and has all these weapons on their border. NATO and the EU are a conglomerate of the old money of Europe and what's left of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire after World War I and World War II under the Bilderberg Agreement with what's left of the British Empire and the new American Empire that was put at the center of that control system. And this is in all the big historical books and things. It's not even debated. The public doesn't understand this. NATO is the biggest child trafficking group with the EU. They're the biggest narcotics traffickers next to the CIA. I mean, they're just as bad as it gets. And they needed a reason to expand globally, not just continue. So they've said their business model is continued war with Russia, which is insane and dangerous. That they can use that by saying anybody that's opposed to their policies is a Russian agent to take their rights away, like you've seen them do here. And so the CIA started getting busted in the 60s, 70s, and 80s running its own clandestine operations. This came out in the senatorial Frank Church committee hearings in the 70s. And so they were already working with the Marshall Plan Corporation, that is the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperative Development, and their project too. Stop Empire and the new American project too. Then they used the threat of that to build up a police state here. And it was when Joseph McCarthy figured that out that then They went after him and destroyed him in the media. They were happy to say, oh, there's Russians, there's communists, but when he discovered that the Pentagon was actually funding Russia and it was all the big banks, he went, whoa. And that's all in the congressional record. So now we fast forward, fall of the Soviet Union, the globalists were looting it, they thought they had it under control, Putin was able to get in, kick most of them out, stopped all their DEI, stopped all their anti-human crap. But in the meantime, NATO rolled up and took over all the countries around them and staged coups and has all these weapons on their border. NATO and the EU are a conglomerate of the old money of Europe and what's left of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire after World War I and World War II under the Bilderberg Agreement with what's left of the British Empire and the new American Empire that was put at the center of that control system. And this is in all the big historical books and things. It's not even debated. The public doesn't understand this. NATO is the biggest child trafficking group with the EU. They're the biggest narcotics traffickers next to the CIA. I mean, they're just as bad as it gets. And they needed a reason to expand globally, not just continue. So they've said their business model is continued war with Russia, which is insane and dangerous. Then they can use that by saying anybody that's opposed to their policies is a Russian agent to take their rights away, like you've seen them do here. And so the CIA started getting busted the 60s, 70s, and 80s running its own clandestine operations. This came out in the senatorial Frank Church committee hearings in the 70s. And so they were already working with the Marshall Plan Corporation, that is the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperative Development. And that's over the International Bank of Settlements, and that's the clearinghouse over the International Banking Consortium that owns the main central banks of Europe, the UK, and owns the controlling stock in the private Federal Reserve. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. To China project too. That by saying anybody that's opposed to their policies is a Russian agent to take their rights away, like you've seen them do here. And so the CIA started getting busted the 60s, 70s, and 80s running its own clandestine operations. This came out in the senatorial Frank Church committee hearings in the 70s. And so they were already working with the Marshall Plan Corporation, that is the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperative Development. And that's over the International Bank of Settlements, and that's the clearinghouse over the International Banking Consortium that owns the main central banks of Europe, the UK, and owns the controlling stock in the private Federal Reserve. So they that by saying anybody that's opposed to their policies is a Russian agent to take their rights away, like you've seen them do here. And so the CIA started getting busted the 60s, 70s, and 80s running its own clandestine operations. This came out in the senatorial Frank Church committee hearings in the 70s. And so they were already working with the Marshall Plan Corporation, that is the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperative Development. And that's over the International Bank of Settlements, and that's the clearinghouse over the International Banking Consortium that owns the main central banks of Europe, the UK, and owns the controlling stock in the private Federal Reserve. So they had that beachhead in 1913. They were merging us with the British Empire after that. But those are the policies of that conglomerate that have sold out America, sold out people of Europe, opened the borders up, brought in all these illegal aliens, the DEI, the deindustrialization program to get the West poor and under their control, the Great Reset. And so the CIA is openly getting its funding out of the OECD that set up the unelected EU Commission, that set up NATO. The first group at the end of World War II set up is the OECD. Then the OECD sets up NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The OECD is at the heart of the funding and setting up the UN with Rockefeller and Rothschild money. It's all on record. And so the OECD funds and gives the intelligence to a great extent to the CIA for their clandestine operations. But then the real way you fund yourself is you get control of the government by penetrating the cabinets. That's their political arm, the WEF. It's got co-powers with the UN now as of 2 years ago. And they go into our federal agencies, put their people in, and then get trillions every year funneled back into all their different operations around the world. And they use the drug dealing money, the human trafficking money, the government money to go out and buy up corporations, companies, propaganda operations, all of it. And so when Trump goes in and cuts the funding to USAID and the EPA and the hundreds of billions that were being stolen a year, and you find out John Podesta is over, $1 trillion and steals, disappears $375 billion, mainstream news from last week, 2 weeks. This is the level of the criminals we're up against. And so when Trump says, I'm not going to pay for NATO anymore, we're not just paying what the 70-something percent, well, they said it was 50, now it's 70, they admit, and 85% of Ukraine. It's also all the other NGOs and all that money that's going into them. And then they use all that back through the propaganda systems and through Voice of America and all those other agencies to codify the propaganda systems that they then duplicate. They write the scripts that's then picked up by ABC, CNN, and all the corporate media. And you got Reuters that's MI6. So they tasked MI6 with $300 million from the federal government from Biden last year to, quote, get Musk. That's just one purchase. And Trump is cutting that off. And so the EU is suing American companies, even ones that aren't political. They're shutting them down. They do big EU lawsuits, even if their stuff isn't sold in their countries. If somebody buys it here and takes it there, they claim they can sue them. The courts rule in favor for them because they're the conglomerate. They're the monopoly. They're already a tyranny, and then they can project that tyranny out over into our system and are trying to transfer our system into what you see in Germany, what you see in the UK, what you see in Canada, what you see in Australia is the exact stuff they want to do here. Same groups, same blueprints. Why the COVID rollout was the same rules all over the world and the same $53,000 equivalent to put somebody on a respirator when they didn't need it or put them on remdesivir. It's protocols, it's formulas, it's systems, it's battle plans, it's blueprints. And it goes through every level. The global standardization for a world ID, the global standardization for a vaccine passport. It's all for the internet ID, all for the cashless society, all for the control system that they're so close to getting in. And then Trump comes in and exposes it, starts pulling out of it and saying, you're not going to have that war with Russia you started. We're going to end this because not just Trump, the real reason so many people even in the establishment turned on the globalists was they really saw that, wait, you're really going to collapse things. You're really going to make everybody poor. You're really going to make us eat bugs. We don't want to do that. We got involved in all this tyranny to be rich and powerful. We don't want to literally create a hellscape. Plus, China 15 years ago double-crossed the globalists. It wasn't supposed to expand their military force. They were going to get the monopoly on rare earth minerals and computer chips and things and use the globalists as middlemen, but they double-crossed the globalists, so their project failed. So all they have left is Europe now and what's left of the British Empire. If Trump can break away, then the obvious alliance of peace is with Russia because of its geography in the world and its resources with America. And that's the obvious alliance for success. And then you've got Communist China openly expanding its alliance with the EU. So China is allied with the EU against us. They've got their globalist operatives still inside our country, both EU, UK, and others. And they are working against our country. So Trump is turning off the globalist system, and they are trying to crash the U.S. economy, pulling their money out to the EU. They're trying to destroy Musk to scare everybody else off. They're trying to go after all the key Musk Trump supporters. In fact, these swattings are all associated with people on the Ukraine enemies list, but also people that have been defending Musk. And they got right-wing influencers that they're got attacking Musk. The bad guys are funding. They got left-wingers doing it because Musk is wrecking them. So you know you're over the target when you're getting the flag. So Harrison Smith put out a great viral report, but his headline deals with President John F. Kennedy had uncovered a gun running and narcotics operation within the CIA prior to assassination. The new documents show there is some good stuff in there, according to the new declassified document. And it wasn't that the Russians were trying to kill Kennedy. Kennedy was telling them, the CIA is getting ready to kill me. They won't give me the information. I need to have your list of who their agents are. He was getting ready to abolish them, and they killed him. So the report, but within the report, just reminded me of the OECD, because that's in these documents, which you already knew from the Frank Church Committee from another angle, but this is now in the new documents, and we show them in the report. You did a great job covering it. Of this. So, and of course, the documents, the way the media is, oh, the CIA got involved with the OECD because they couldn't get money because of Kennedy's oversight. No. The same globalists that created the CIA to be this unelected dictatorship with no oversight created the European Commission unelected with no oversight. And NATO and all of it. It's the same big Rothschild Rockefeller combine that owns the Federal Reserve. So it's not that Europe's attacking us, the globalists just, it's formulas back through the propaganda systems and through Voice of America and all those other agencies to codify the propaganda systems that they then duplicate. They write the scripts that's then picked up by ABC, CNN, and all the corporate media. You got Reuters that's MI6. So they tasked MI6 with $300 million from the federal government from Biden last year to, quote, get Musk. That's just one purchase. And Trump is cutting that off. And so the EU is suing American companies, even ones that aren't political. They're shutting them down. They do big EU lawsuits, even if their stuff isn't sold in their countries. If somebody buys it here and takes it there, they claim they can sue them. The courts rule in favor for them because they're the conglomerate. They're the monopoly. They're already a tyranny, and then they can project that tyranny out over into our system and are trying to transfer our system into what you see in Germany, what you see in the UK, what you see in Canada, what you see in Australia is the exact stuff they want to do here. Same group, same blueprints. Why the COVID rollout was the same rules all over the world and the same $53,000 equivalent to put somebody on a respirator when they didn't need it or put them on remdesivir. It's protocols, it's formulas, it's systems, it's battle plans, it's blueprints. And it goes through every level. The global standardization for a world ID, the global standardization for a vaccine passport. It's all for the internet ID, all for the cashless society, all for the control system that they're so close to getting in. And then Trump comes in and exposes it, starts pulling out of it and saying, you're not going to have that war with Russia you started. We're going to end this because not just Trump, the real reason so many people, even in the establishment, turned on the globalists was they really saw that, wait, you're really going to collapse things. You're really going to make everybody poor. You're really going to make us eat bugs. We don't want to do that. We got involved in all this tyranny to be rich and powerful. We don't want to literally create a hellscape. Plus, China 15 years ago double-crossed the globalists. It wasn't supposed to expand their military force. They were going to get the monopoly on rare earth minerals and computer chips and things and use the globalists as middlemen, but they double-crossed the globalists, so their project failed. So all they have left is Europe now and what's left of the British Empire. If Trump can break away, then the obvious alliance of peace is with Russia because of its geography in the world and its resources with America. And that's the obvious alliance for success. And then you've got Communist China openly expanding its alliance with the EU. So China's allied with the EU against us. They've got their globalist operatives still inside our country, both EU, UK, and others. And they are working against our country. So Trump is turning off the globalist system. And they are trying to crash the U.S. economy, pulling their money out to the EU. They're trying to destroy Musk to scare everybody else off. They're trying to go after all the key Musk-Trump supporters. In fact, these swattings are all associated with people on the Ukraine enemies list, but also people that have been defending Musk. And they got right-wing influencers that they're got attacking Musk. The bad guys are funding. They got left-wingers doing it, because Musk is wrecking them. So you know you're over the target when you're getting the flag. So Harrison Smith put out a great viral report, but his headline deals with President John F. Kennedy had uncovered a gun running and narcotics operation in the CIA prior to assassination. The new documents show there is some good stuff in there. Of according to the new declassified documents. And it wasn't that the Russians were trying to kill Kennedy. Kennedy was telling them, the CIA is getting ready to kill me. They won't give me the information. I need to have your list of who their agents are. And he was getting ready to abolish them, and they killed him. So the report, but within the report, just reminded me of the OECD, because that's in these documents, which you already knew from the Frank Church Committee from another angle, but this is now in the new documents, and we show them in the report. You did a great job covering it. Of this. So, and of course, the documents, the way the media is, oh, the CIA got involved with the OECD because they couldn't get money because of Kennedy's oversight. No. The same globalists that created the CIA to be this unelected dictatorship with no oversight created the European Commission unelected with no oversight. And NATO and all of it. It's the same big Rothschild Rockefeller combine that owns the Federal Reserve. So it's not that Europe's attacking us. The globalists just still have it under their control and are using it as an attack base. That's why I explained why Musk is going after all the tyrants. That the EU must go down or America will never be free. Germany's fate is Europe's fate is our fate. Australia's fate is our fate. Canada's fate is our fate. We need to address it to the peoples of the world to unify against the globalists for 1776 worldwide. Not a 1776 where America runs you, but against the British Empire, against that model that was used all over the world. It's not the British Empire now, it's a banking globalist empire, but it came out of that in all of its functions. And that's what Trump's doing when Elon says the globalists are criminals, they're tyrants, they're communists, they're enslaving us, they're totalitarians. When Trump says that, the globalists are mad, I'm going to have tariffs. The globalists are mad, I'm turning energy back on. We're going to make everybody wealthy, not just America. We want trading partners. We just want fair deals, not 90-10 deals. And Trump is just hardworking, decent, full of courage, common sense. And a lot of people are supporting him, but this is intense. And then I see so many other people that are holier than thou who just go, oh, Elon's into self-driving cars. So, and you know, Elon will tell you, that's where it's going. Choose not to use it. AI, it's going to be there. We should have an open free one. Yeah, all that stuff's dangerous. So's this dagger in my hand. So's the gun I got sitting by my desk. The point is the globalist system and all of its policies and its anti-human stuff and its forced injections and its GMO and the poison chemicals in the food, they're in the process of removing it. They already blocked the new COVID vaccine rolled out. They just killed it. They're making a real effort at this. And there are so many people that just can't believe there's actually good people. I mean, I know I'm good. I know I'm really doing my best. I know I've got a lot of courage and I'm absolutely going up against the most dangerous heart of the system. And then here's the talking point is that Jones isn't real. Jones isn't, it's crap, ladies and gentlemen. Those other people don't even know all this stuff. I want them to know it. And then they're a minority of our people, but I care about them. But some are on the payroll of the bad guys because nobody's listening to the left's attacks on Trump or Musk, but they'll listen to these people that, you know, don't want Trump to get our full backing. We do stuff we don't like, we'll criticize it. You notice he changes it. I mean, we bitched and complained to the government yesterday and said, what are you doing? We had the highest level of the state call, high level feds call. And you saw statements from the DHS head, the deputy FBI director, and the FBI director that we're on it, we're going after them. And then they said, do you understand that they're bouncing it out of Europe? Do you understand they're spoofing numbers? Do you understand that? Yeah, I do. You understand you have DAs in your cities that will not prosecute these people. And most of the federal prosecutors still won't. We've got to get rid of them. We're surrounded. We just got a beachhead. And Owen got these calls yesterday. I talked to him this morning. He was just blown away. He's like, yeah, it's like you said there. That they say they're completely, you know, we're in this with you. We understand. Okay, we haven't won yet, people. And they did indict a big FBI agent that targeted Trump today. There's going to be a lot more coming. They're moving quick, okay? But Trump is a lifeboat for Western civilization right now. Could it be bigger? Could it be better? Could it have, fancier accoutrement? Sure. But we're in the North Atlantic with 30 below zero water, and 10 seconds in there, you pass out. 30 seconds later, you go into the water, you die. Okay, so we're in a lifeboat right now, and there's a bunch of people wanting to prove they're holier than thou that got hammers trying to beat the bottom out of the boat. The boat ain't your problem. Trump's trying to stop World War III. There's a good chance they're going to kill him. You know they're trying. And you know what? If we fail and the electricity gets turned off and we go to full civil war, I hope everybody that helped our enemies win just remembers that when you're starving to death. Because I know history. I know what I'm looking at. And I know what we're going into. And people better say a prayer that Trump and Musk are successful, that M4 is successful. Because we're under total attack because we know what we're doing. Now, the enemy is falling apart. They're totally unstable. And they're being devastated. But that only makes them more dangerous. And so we're in the thick of the damn battle right now, people. All right, let me go to Harrison's excellent breakdown of some of the stuff that he had. I mean, there is a lot of really powerful stuff in there. But if people look at it, they'll interpret it one-dimensional about, oh, the CIA started working with the OECD. The same people created it the same time. All of it was created in 1946 and officially rolled out the year after that. The UN, OECD, NATO, all of it, okay? The CIA, all of it. It's the same thing. It's not different groups. Here it is. Pretty good report, huh? Is Curry going to talk to me? I'll just sit here. It's weird.
There's this document I called the Eagle 2 document.
Just stop. I don't even care anymore. Oh, God almighty. I don't understand this anymore. I just don't understand it anymore. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. I love you, God. You know what? You don't want to know about the OECD. You know what? If I don't play this, everybody will care and go look into it. Actually, you don't get to see it. You don't get to know about it. In fact, do not look into the OECD. Elon, he's the bad one. Go get him, the one waging war with him. He's so horrible. How dare him find the $1 trillion stolen dollars so far? I'll try to play the clip when we come back. We'll see. Do I need to tell you I need your support? I don't know. No, we'd be better off if we'd never been on the air, probably. Yeah, we'd be in a lot better position, all right? These are really nice people. You know, you shouldn't resist them at all. You shouldn't fight back against them. You shouldn't back people that are fighting everything they got against them. That's just dumb. The smart people do nothing and lay there. That's why we got in this position. Seriously, I appreciate all your support. We've got a new limited edition double-edged dagger at thealexjonesstore.com. It's a limited edition World War II, but the modern design trench knife with the brass knuckles and all black and stainless steel, the skull crusher, double-edged 10-inch blade, stainless steel of high quality. And it's got a Spartan with a spear. It says tip of the spear on one side, InfoWars on the other overhead shot. Please And these always sell out in about a week. So if you want it, it is at thealexjonesstore.com. We need your support. It's a piece of history, plus it's a great defense item. I mean, when it comes to knives, this is, I went out and I found this. I got the producers to mass produce it. This is the battle knife. This is what you want on your side. This is how you get the business done. This is how you defend yourself. Attack in all directions to defend yourself. Get the Spartan now at thealexjonesstore.com. And they got a package deal where you get a giant discount on it when you get it with the t-shirt, Tip of the Spear t-shirt with the Spartan as well at thealexjonesstore.com. thealexjonesstore.com. And if you become a VIP for $30 a month, you get $40 to spend in the store. If you want to commit to us to be a supporter, do that. You can cancel any time. It just reminds you and you get special deals. Please, everybody become a VIP. Let us know you support us. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. I mean, look at gold right now. Holy mackerel. I mean, it is up just enormously. So yeah, I'm pitching it to you right now. I mean, I'm handing out, Gatorade at a marathon. I mean, I'm handing out ice water in the Sahara. I mean, it is such the top-rated, the biggest company, because they're the best, and he's a patriot, and he keeps the show in the air. I mean, look, they're getting the most calls and stuff they've ever had. So, and I knew this was coming. And I was telling you the last year and a half, I said, get in now, get in now. And you're like, well, now it's really luck. It's going to go up, people. Or I'm an upside down world. I mean, there's nothing sure in this world but your relationship with Jesus Christ. All right? Other than that, though, gold and silver in investments, and I get it, and I've had it for emergency backup, a hedge against insanity. Okay? So I'm done plugging. KEPM.com/gold 720-605-3900.
Here's where all eyes now are on gold and silver. Because gold went over $3,000 an ounce, it's at an all-time high. That's a very strong technical and psychological threshold number, that 3,000. So now that the world is looking at gold, the world is also going to be looking at silver. So even the massive growth that we've already seen, I'm guessing it's just the beginning. Every podcast in the Patriot world has some kind of a gold dealer sponsoring them, right? And it's like, oh, we're selling these shipwreck coins. They sell semi-numismatic coins. They sell rare things. They sell things with a story. And I'm warning you, just because gold is good, not all gold is good. Just because silver is good, not all silver is good. I've seen literally, Alex, hundreds of invoices from people who have purchased from other dealers that have been on these things, and they're paying $60 to $80 an ounce. Let me explain how this works, because it's not good. So a dealer will actually commission, like the Canadian Royal Mint, and people will think, oh, this is a Canadian Royal Mint coin. No, Canadian Royal Mint makes Canadian maple leaves, 1 ounce. If you have some kind of a 2 ounce or 1 1/4 ounce wildlife coin that you're paying $60 or $80 an ounce for, here's what happens when you liquidate it. So you bought it for $80 an ounce when silver was, let's say, 28. That's when I was looking at a ton of these invoices. So what happens when you liquidate it? You send it to the depository. The depository says, we don't want this crap. We're going to give you 4% less than spot. We're going to melt it down into a coin or a bar. So you paid 80 and you get the same price as bullion when you liquidate it. What that tells me is silver really has to move to $60 to $80 an ounce for you to break even. This is the worst stuff, but people love to sell them because they're higher commission. I don't play that game. So if you think you've been ripped off on something like that because this story sadly resonates with you, call our office and we'll see if we can unwind it for you and do something to get you into a better spot.
You said 2 weeks ago, I think it'll be above 3,000 in 2 weeks. Now it's over 333 right now, 3,033. Gut level, you're not predicting it, but just as a man, as an economist, where do you think gold is in a month?
3,100 in a month, like in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And then I think it gets to 3,200 by the beginning of the summer. And we could literally see 4,000 as momentum starts to gather and as the eyes of the world get on it. And then silver, probably 50 to 75.
People need to call you, do a free consultation, leave your name and number, 720-605-3900, KEPM.com/gold. Do the form, they'll call you back, they'll do a free consultation. They can roll over your IRAs, 401ks. Do it now, folks. I only steer you in the right direction. It's a no-brainer. Dr. Kirk Elliott, thank you so much.
My pleasure. See ya.
It's good to be right, isn't it? Wow. All right, here is Harrison Smith on the OECD. It's just a piece of it, but it's just kind of a little window out of the JFK files for you. And then we will take this little piece of the report and tag it on to my 25-minute breakdown of this. But here's the point I wanted to play. Here it is.
There's this document I call the Eagle 2 document. It purports to be from the Federal Bureau of Investigation to Senator Edward Kennedy, classification top secret, written on July 7th, 1989. During the tenure of Richard Helms as director of the Central Intelligence Agency, decisions were made by the director with implied approval of the Oval Office to draft a blueprint and put into motion a plan by which the CIA could have as much funds as and when needed without the knowledge of Congress. The 5 experts picked were Edward Lansdale, who ran the CIA activities in Vietnam, William Colby, who was put in total command of the blueprint operation when enacted, George Bush, who asked to receive approval to have his top aide Richard Armitage to be brought aboard, and Lieutenant Colonel Robert Ferreira, a top CIA asset. The master plan called for the CIA to enter into the drug smuggling business in total and complete fashion. General Lansdale would handle all the distribution network and collection services within the military in Vietnam. See, this is why all the veterans came back addicted to heroin, because they were sold it by the CIA. The operation was given the name Eagle 2. Here's where it gets crazy, folks. Before the operation was really off the ground, Colby started his phase of elimination of dissidents, and he did so under the code name of the Phoenix Program. Colby became insane with his power, and before he was finished with Phoenix, over 20,000 suspects were executed, and over 2,500 U.S. citizens were accused by Colby of being collaborators, and they vanished. That was too close to all being made public, so Helms, who in the meantime had formed a totally strong relationship with Baron Philip du Daphne, who represented the real capital of the world, the Rothschild Empire, decided to stop Operation Eagle 2 and start another clandestine money-making operation and leave Japan. Baron du Daphne, by the way of information, later took complete control of the international organization, for Economic Cooperation and Development, headquartered in Paris, France. So this is how the deep state works. This is how it was formed. This is what we mean when we talk about the intelligence community being international, it being co-opted and actually controlled by people that aren't technically in office of CIA. They're shadow controllers. If you're a guy and your wife manages all of the money, how are you going to cheat on her? How are you going to go have a nice steak dinner with your mistress if your wife's going to start asking questions about the $200 bill on the next credit card statement? What you need to do is go do a little something on the side to get some cash of your own so you can pay for your nefarious activities outside of the oversight of the money manager.
President Trump's having a press conference at 3 p.m. today. Owen Schroyer will be carrying it when he's going to abolish the Department of Education. Stay with us. Massive news straight ahead. All right, we're doing the deep dive on the incredible structures, the biggest on Earth, not made naturally, not naturally formed, under the Giza Plateau right next to Cairo, Egypt. And there's been a lot of scans before that found that there's stuff a lot bigger than the pyramids under it. Well, it turns out the pyramids are just the tips of giant structures that go more than 2 kilometers under the earth. And engineers look at it and say it looks like an energy generation system, just like the ancients said was under it. Absolutely incredible. We're going to be doing the deep dive on that with a really great reporter and researcher, Jay Anderson, here in a few minutes. But let me just tell everybody. This morning, it was announced by the White House that Trump was set to sign an executive order abolishing the Department of Education today. Now, it was created by Congress, but Trump has the power to kill all its funding, and he's promised to do that. So when you hear the headline, or you see the headline, Trump to abolish the Department of Education today, effectively it will abolish it. Or maybe he's planning to have a conversation with Congress and just do it. Because the scholars have looked at his Alien Act and said, you know, nobody has a right, according to previous Supreme Court rulings, to say presidents can't implement that. And now the judge that blocked it has backed off for now because he knows he's going to get overruled. So it's going to be some rough water here, and they're coming after all of us at the tip of the spear. But you wanted to dismantle them, folks. You wanted to go after the globalists. cutting the funding for the NATO war, cutting the funding out of the UN, WHO, cutting the funding out of hundreds of federal agencies, abolishing 20 plus that he could do that were created by presidents. It's on. And Owen at 3 p.m. is going to be carrying that press conference, and Trump abolishes the Department of Education. So look for that. Let's look at some of the other incredible news. New York State's top court blocks New York City law allowing non-citizens to vote. And they were doing it in general elections and off-year elections, not just local. That's when they hold the damn elections at the same time, unless it's a special election. So big victory there. Absolutely massive. Look at this. Anti-Trump FBI agent, one of the ringleaders, arrested for disclosing classified information. Feds nabbed him as he was trying to flee the country on an international flight. Jonathan Buma. Jonathan Buma. Read about him before. A little Freudian slip when I called him Bum. So that's what I've been saying. It's one thing they run espionage against Trump and spy and leak illegal stuff, but then it's hard to find all that. Just get him anywhere you can. Oh, look, he downloaded a bunch of illegal stuff and took it out and then shared it with media. Got your ass. And we need to start seeing a lot of this, and we're starting to see it. The head of ICE in California caught stealing money, allegedly, out of COVID money and FEMA money. Indicted. FBI agent who accused agency of political bias arrested at New York airport. Oh, that's how the Guardian spun it. Oh. Federal prosecutors dropped phony assault charges against former Proud Boys leader and J6 political prisoner Enrico Tarrio when some Antifa lady attacked him in D.C. What Trump can do, he's doing. Breaking: India raids Soros-backed offices linked to Open Society Foundation and their illegal internal political meddling. The leader of India said, we're not going to tolerate foreign interference in our country. Yeah, things aren't going too well for old Soros-y. Is Greenpeace finished? Jury orders far-left group to pay $660 million in damages for protest against Dakota Access Pipeline. You mean blowing them up? Like blowing up the Tesla dealerships? Oh, it's just protesting. Oh, Trump wants to make it illegal to protest. You mean to burn things down, to terrorize people? Judicial coup. Radical leftist judges wage all-out war against President Trump and the nation. 129 legal challenges filed in 2 months and 64 injunctions his first term, more than all U.S. presidents combined. Look at these clowns. Look at these zombies. Look at these guns. Judge orders Bureau of Prisons to return transgender inmates to women's facilities where they're raping them, reversing Trump's protective order of women. Judge Royce Lamberth, he'll get overridden. But look, wonder what's on his hard drive. Creepy. Federal judge blocks Trump's ban on transgender people serving in the military. Yeah, now the judges command the military to decide policy. That'll get overridden. But now that judge is backed off for now. Elon Musk will make maximum allowable donations to GOP members of Congress who back impeachment of radical Trump-hating judges. Yeah, impeachment of judges is at an all-time high under Reagan, and it now basically hasn't happened since then in 30-plus years. Governor DeSantis offers a solution to dealing with the activist judges who are trying to block Trump's agenda. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has an idea of how to deal with the multiple judges who keep trying to stand in the way of President Trump's agenda and the people. DeSantis suggests that these judges should be stripped of their jurisdiction by Congress, and he even has a way to make that happen. And he goes through how you carry that out. The aspects of President Trump's agenda are stymied by judges amid legal challenges. Florida Governor said that Congress has the authority to strip jurisdiction of federal courts to decide these cases in the first place. The sabotaging of President Trump's agenda, violating Article 2, by resisting, that's what the judges call themselves, was predictable. Why no jurisdiction-stripping bills teed up at the onset of Congress, DeSantis wrote. When someone responded by asking how much a move could pass with 60 votes would be needed to push it through the Senate, DeSantis replied, attach it to a must-pass bill. Absolutely. Senator Hawley, rogue judges, slams them, calls on Congress to roll back nationwide injunctions. Say the same thing as DeSantis. Mortgage fraud alert. Not only did she say one house was 4 houses on her taxes and her mortgage on the taxes, looks like she married her father. Oh, it's kind of like Omar marrying her brother, Ilhan Omar. Checkmate. Doge workers take senior leadership position at USAID as radical judge rules. Doge likely violated Constitution when it shut down the agency. Yeah, right. Vancouver International Auto Show removes Tesla from this year's event, then is forced to turn off replies on their X account. Yeah, who cares about your stupid car show? And it continues. Budweiser parent company Anheuser-Busch cancels San Francisco Pride sponsorship. That's because they're all run by BlackRock and they've ordered it to stop because they know they're losing. Ben & Jerry's parent company ousts its far-left CEO and demands dismantling of brand's progressive values. Planned Parenthood shutting down main baby-killing operation in Manhattan, where hundreds of thousands of kids are killed a year after Trump got their funding cut. Getting real results here. Meanwhile, the White House responded to fired president of Institute of Peace, a CIA front group, barricading himself in the building as Doge attempts to gain entry. And of course, even an Obama judge had to come out and admit, well, no, Trump's allowed to abolish those agencies. They were created by the president, previous president. And it gets better. Brothers and roommate of Lake and Riley killer ordered to be deported. Aww. We've got all this. Chuck Schumer says he wakes up at 3 a.m. thinking about Elon Musk. Then we got Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett says for her birthday, she wants Elon Musk to be taken out, taken down. Bozo Governor Tim Walz gloats over Tesla's stock crash for its Minnesota pension fund holds $361 million worth of Tesla. No, he knows what he's doing. All right. I want to move now for the balance of the hour and some of the next, not all the other news, with this incredible information. And people are saying, you know, is this real? There's been other ground penetrating radar that found the same stuff they found. They didn't shoot as deep. Now they've just shot deeper. So we have all those other ground penetrating radar that found the other structures in the pyramid and some of the stuff right below. Now we're just seeing more of it. No, I did deep research on this. This is real, okay? And I've got so much research. It's dizzying. And there's other amazing sites around the world that Jay Anderson, a great researcher, is going to be breaking down with us. But I don't want to just focus on the super viral 2-kilometer pillars and all this beneath the middle pyramid there at Giza. It's the scans I've got that we've got of what's under the other stuff. It's just as amazing. But these are the biggest structures on Earth, not natural, symmetrical. It's incredible. We're talking to Jay Anderson here in just a moment. But I want to play his viral report from X. Clip 4, Jason Wild. Also did another report on this we're going to be looking at. But this is really, really important information. So we're going to play clip 2 from Jay Anderson. Groundbreaking findings on the Giza Pyramid Complex. Here's clip 2.
I am struggling to express in words just how significant of a discovery this is. What has just been announced in relation to the pyramids at the Giza Plateau and the plateau itself is so incredible, so awe-inspiring and narrative-shattering that I have been sitting here for the last hour trying to wrap my head around the implications of what we were just told. So this is pretty much breaking news because the new findings were announced on the 16th of March at a press conference held by the team who was studying the Great Pyramid of Giza with a non-invasive technology that was first developed by Filippo Bionde and Corrado Malanga, called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography. So this was used to explore the internal structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And this method leverages the analysis of micro movements typically generated by background seismic activity to achieve a high resolution full 3D tomographic imagery of the pyramid's interior and subsurface components. The recent findings from deploying this technology are nothing short of mind-blowing, because what's been discovered is that there are huge structures coming down from the base of the pyramid deep into the bedrock, in fact over 600 meters deep, which then connects to structures that extend up to 2 kilometers below the surface of the ground. 2 kilometers, massive internal structures connected to the base of the pyramid and extending deep, deep down. This is what we know so far. Utilizing high-resolution radar images from Capella Space and Umbra, which are 2 private companies that specialize in satellite-based synthetic aperture radar imaging. This has allowed researchers to create a 3D model of the internal structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, this model has revealed a previously unknown chamber with 5 horizontal levels and a sloping roof, which in of itself is an architectural design unlike any previously documented in the Giza Pyramid. But the most shocking discovery lies beneath the surface, below ground level. Radar tomography has identified vertical cylindrical structures extending for hundreds of meters beneath the pyramid. There are 8 of these cylindrical wells arranged in 2 parallel rows, descending to an astonishing depth of 648 meters. Even more intriguing, at the base of these structures are 2 massive cubic formations measuring approximately 80 meters in diameter. The tomographic data suggests that these are vertical wells with intricate spiral pathways. Now, this design not only implies a functional purpose, but also a level of sophisticated engineering that completely blows the dynastic Egyptian model out of the water. I mean, the pyramid itself was already a massive red flag in the ancient Egyptian historical narrative. But now, with this discovery, I think it's become impossible to say that the Egyptian civilizations that we understand, that we've been taught about, were responsible for building these structures. And it doesn't even end there. The radar analysis extends beneath the entire Giza Plateau, revealing interconnected structures beneath not only the Great Pyramid of Giza, but also those of Khufu and Menkaure. The subsurface network reaches down to a staggering depth of approximately 2 kilometers. 2 kilometers. This is not possible, given the standard historical and archaeological narrative given to us about ancient Egypt. Now, I'm hearing that there is more to come. There is a 4-hour presentation that's going to be released by the research team. This is what I'm hearing. That's going to go into every detail of their findings. This has essentially been a strategic release of incredible data ahead of time to get people interested. And I am more interested in this than basically anything else right now, because this is by far the most provocative piece of evidence for not only a potential technological explanation for the purpose of the Giza complex, but it also provides the most extraordinary evidence for a pre-flood era civilization that was flourishing in a way that we can scarcely comprehend. It's also possible that this spiraling cylindrical series of structures are staircases. And I can't help but think of the channeled writings of Thoth the Atlantean, the Emerald Tablets, speaking of a lost hall of records, a sacred hall of knowledge below the Giza Plateau, the halls of Amenti. Could this be the lost hall of records from the pre-flood era? Now, obviously, this discovery is extremely controversial. It runs as a complete contradiction of the established narratives and status quo in mainstream academia on these issues. This will cause big waves throughout the academic and the wider world if they can fully evidence these findings. But the results so far seem pretty clear. There is obviously significant structural engineering taking place deep below the pyramids and the Giza Plateau in general. Has this changed your mind on the pyramids? Has this strengthened your position on what they might have been? Has this new discovery given you any new ideas about what the implications are? Let me know in the comment section below. And honestly, everyone, share this far and wide. This is such interesting stuff. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll just have to see where this goes, because rest assured, I'll be keeping a very close eye on any coming announcements and updates on this issue. This plays directly into one of my main interests, which is, of course, prehistorical civilizational implications. What was going on before the global cataclysm? Well, I think moments like this could shed light on that question. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, the globalists think they're gearing up for a global cataclysm, a pole shift, something like that. Jay Anderson is a really smart guy. I appreciate him coming on with us today. The Project Unity on X, independent researcher and host of the Project Unity podcast platform dedicated to exploring consciousness, ancient origins, the developments of the bleeding edge of scientific discovery. And he joins us now for a little bit of the next hour. Thanks for coming on, sir. Got 5 minutes to the break. I'm not an Egyptologist or anywhere close to it, but I know they've been very secretive. They've tried to block people with ground-penetrating radar. I know they keep finding more and more. And I've seen the tops of these structures and other things by other groups. And so I remember seeing the first layers of this, but now with the better technology, they've gotten so much more. Obviously, I want to talk about this, but also, as you point out, you're just looking at the middle pyramid. There's a whole bunch of other stuff under there. And so you've got a lot here today. Give us a little synopsis of what's coming up. We'll go to break and come back and plow into all of it. Thanks for being here.
Well, Alex, it's such a pleasure to be on your show. I've got so much respect for your tireless research and perseverance and defiance against the system. It takes a warrior to be in your position. So a lot of respect for that. And I really appreciate you reaching out, because this whole situation with the Giza Plateau, I mean, the implications are beyond incredible if they can fully evidence this. So I'm extremely interested in the implications of our prehistory. I think this is a topic that has grown significantly in popularity over the last several years, thanks to individuals like, Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson and many others, including yourself, of course, because I know that this is an area of great interest to you. One thing that I want to make clear is I'm not personally involved in the Kaffa Pyramid project. I'm just plugged into this field as a researcher myself, and we're simply reporting on the findings that have been circulating since their conference on the 15th. And also, I did, in my hurried excitement to make this video, make a little bit of a mistake that I would like to correct at the beginning, where the initial studies are the Giza Pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, but the secondary studies that are happening now, that is the Pyramid of Kaffa, that is the second largest pyramid, and that is the one that is supposedly containing these very strange coil-like structures that are going down potentially 2 kilometers underground. So if you want me to get into it, I can talk a little bit about what we know so far from the team.
Absolutely, and probably first the technology, this ground-penetrating Doppler radar.
Yeah, so they're using something called ultra-high azimuth resolution radar imaging with long Doppler integration. Now, I don't know the full technicalities of this system, but the team claims that they were able to extract precise acoustic information. Their satellite data has been processed via this groundbreaking technique called Doppler tomography, which was developed by a man called Professor Filippo Biande, who, as I said in my video, is one of the research affiliates, and he's an internationally renowned expert in synthetic aperture radar and multichromatic tomographic analysis. So just to give people an idea, this methodology, from what we're hearing, apparently enables the creation of 3D reconstructions of subsurface structures, which is what enabled the team to discover what they are claiming to be massive structures extending from the base of the Kaffa pyramid down into the bedrock, like you said, large cylindrical structures with a spiraling design extending over 600 meters down into connecting structures of about 80 meters in diameter. So if this is accurate, obviously it demolishes the current models held by mainstream archaeology and history, and I would argue provide some of the most compelling evidence, like I said, for a pre-dynastic civilization, a pre-flood or pre-cataclysm civilization that, in my opinion, was likely flourishing on this planet around 13,000 years ago, near the end of the last ice age, and before the global cataclysm took place that I think radically reset our entire species.
And there's so many angles. Remember Shoemaker Levy hitting one of the gas giants, and after that they realized, no, we're not getting hit by comets and asteroids every 20 million years. It's happening every couple 100,000. And then now with the satellites, they see there's just giant craters all over the earth. They just fill up as lakes or silt in. And so now even mainline science goes, wait, there's a lot more cataclysms than we thought. And the only thing about science that's consistent is that it's changing with what we know. So when we're told, don't question Fauci, I am the science, that is the complete opposite of science. Jay Anderson, let's come back and talk about this, go over the discovery. And what I really want to get into after that is what the scan's showing is under the other pyramids. We'll be right back. Let's talk to Max in Wisconsin. Max, you're on the air.
Hey, I wanted to plug the Shilajit first. I thought you guys would have mentioned it before, but like you guys always talk about Saturn and Saturn black goo, where Google got its name from. And Shilajit is the Earth equivalent, and it's super healthy, full of the really rare compounds that like there's very, very sought after.
Yeah, they don't even really know where it comes from. I mean, it's if I talk about Shilajit, it's so weird. I mean, it would take hours because I've known about it for decades, and I don't know, but I mean, what do you think it is?
I think it's like Earth goo that like excretes from the inside of the Earth, just like how the meteorites have that, the meteorite goo. And the
sure, that's right. I mean, they've now found like meteorites from Mars that they're sure have the skeletons of bacteria in them.
Yeah, and like in the Himalayas, they risk their lives to get it. And the toxic ones, you should also mention, when they're loaded with heavy metals, it's usually mercury. A lot of the Chinese and cheap ones on Amazon and stuff. So
that's why we stayed away from it, because it was just such a hassle to find a good one. But now things have gotten really good. And I mean, we just went private label, the top rated company when they let us do it. It's badass, totally clean. There's nothing in it. 4 companies have tested it. I mean, all the stuff we have is all FDA lab approved, tested, everything. So yeah, that's why we're like, and even though they had 3 tests, the big league guys, I said, I'm sending it to the testing Nazi. And I mean that in a good way, like the soup Nazi, Mike Adams. And Mike Adams said, I've never seen, he said, this is the cleanest Shilajit he's ever seen.
Yeah, when it squeezes through the earth, it's able to like pick up a lot of the nasty stuff. And then the stuff, if it's not properly filtered, you'll lose a lot of those exotic compounds. And it's good that, I like yours a lot. It's really good.
Now, it would take hours to go over it all, but watching top Egyptologists and others, even the mainline ones, even on mainstream television and PBS and Discovery Channel and History Channel and everywhere, for my whole life, the Egyptian government and others are very secretive. They never want ground-penetrating radar there. They're always trying to cover stuff up. And you've got all the ancient texts and the different cultures there saying the same thing, that there were these giant complexes under it, and they just keep finding more and more and more. And it's not just that the radar is stronger now. The computers are so powerful that they're able to decipher the information much better and much quicker. And you have to understand, how do you have sonar that they can ping from a submarine and 1,000 miles away, another submarine picks it up? Well, they've got these different antenna systems, how the government actually communicates with the submarines, not just by radio, but they can fire waves or Morse code, it's one of the older systems, through the earth, and less than a second later, it goes all the way from one side of the earth to the other, and it can be heard anywhere in the earth. So there's not just sound in the air or sound in the water, sonar. You can send out different types of energy, radar energy, others, and all of the different pieces of matter, the atoms, all resonate through. And so you're able to hit it with this and then get that back. I mean, remember what happened like 15 years ago? It was big news then. people found with the Kinect systems and with the different Microsoft video games and others, where you stand in front of it and it mirrors your body so you can dance or fight as a soldier or a boxer or whatever. There's dozens of consoles that do that. That's sending out radar, basically. Okay, there's different systems, but it's sending out waves, and then people are able to hook it up to computer screens, get the raw feed. It could see not just you in the room, but through 3-4 walls. And it turned out the government and others were jacking into those systems and using it to look in people's houses. Now, again, your visual eye or a camera, set to the visual light spectrum that's just operating off of light aperture, it can't see through your wall. But these radar systems and sonar systems and other systems can. So imagine if your little video game console can see through 3-4 walls. We showed examples on air where they were seeing people in the front yard shooting through 3 walls from the back of the house all the way to the front with a video game sensor that was just supposed to pick up you in front of it. How do you think it's picking that up? It's sending out constant light speed waves. It's bouncing back. The little sensor's integrating that, and that's in a console costs you $300. That's just one function of the console, one little sensor. So imagine what giant satellites can do and other systems. So I'm going to shut up now and bring in Jay Anderson to recap the big discovery. Everybody's focusing on the 2-kilometer-long systems and the 80-meter squared bases that are at them, and I want to focus on that. Then we get big picture with you, and then also talk about looking at the scans, all those other wild-looking structures that are obviously not naturally forming that are also there. And then I know there's been a lot of previous ground-penetrating radar that I've looked at this stuff that confirmed the stuff in the pyramid. So that's already been found before. Some new stuff got found at the bottom of it, but then what's under it is just awe-inspiring. I mean, if this is accurate, and I don't see how it isn't, this is like the greatest archaeological discovery ever, Jay. Jay Anderson, great researcher, independent researcher, the Project Unity on X. Go ahead. I'm gonna give you the floor now.
Well, it's interesting because the person who seems to be ahead of the marketing for the CAFRA project team, Nicole Cicillo, I think is her name, described it in the press release that I've put on my page and underneath the video that I've put on my X account. That is basically describing this as a massive underground city. So you've got this, like you said, the cylindrical spiraling structures that are coming down from the pyramid into these containers. But alongside this, because the incredible thing about what they're doing is this is space-based. They're using space-based platforms to do this. And I think that's one of the reasons why they may be able to circumvent some of the restrictions placed by the Egyptian government, because what are you going to do about satellites passing over your region, taking scans? At this point, I think that's just fair game until they create rules against it, which they're probably hurriedly trying to do in the light of these revelations. But they're speaking about a massive complex underneath the Giza Plateau, which actually does tie into historical writings and theological texts and the Hermetic wisdom texts of Hermes Trismegistus, the ancient sage of Egypt, that speaks about the halls of Amenti, the secret records that exist underneath the Giza Plateau, which are supposedly meant to be these halls of records of the antediluvian time, the pre-flood era. And I find that to be incredibly fascinating. And the thing is that we know that there have already been massive discrepancies around, for example, the dating of the Sphinx on the Giza Plateau, which is primarily due to the water erosion around the Sphinx. This was first brought to our attention in the 90s by John Anthony West and Dr. Robert Schoch. Their findings in relation to the water erosion imply the Sphinx, which, to be honest, is likely not a Sphinx at all and underwent changes through time, could actually go far as back as 10,500 BC, which would mean the Sphinx predates the rise of dynastic Egyptian civilizations. Those are the ones that we're taught about in school by thousands of years. And there are many parts of Egypt that hint towards a different civilization, a different architectural style, a more advanced engineering skill set. And I'd actually say one of the most striking and obvious features of these more advanced and more ancient structures for the untrained eye, especially in relation to Egypt, is their complete and total lack of hieroglyphs. The pyramids being a prime example of this. I mean, I've been inside the tombs of the Valley of the Kings, and they're adorned in gold and artwork and colors and hieroglyphs. The pyramids, on the other hand, nothing. No symbols, no decorations, no references to be found in the Egyptian texts as to the construction of these pyramids. And that's because I don't think the Egyptians that we're taught about had anything to do with the construction of the Giza Plateau, the pyramids, or places like the Osirian in Abydos. But interestingly, many of these sites that contradict the architectural styles of dynastic Egypt actually match up with other prehistoric building projects around the world. So, you've got the same cyclopean stone building processes, fitting massive stones together in perfect form without any mortar, without a binding agent. And this is a style that's found in Egypt. It's found in Peru, in Japan, in Russia, in Turkey, in Greece. And once again, I think this speaks to a lost period of history, a potentially globally connected period of human history, but also a vastly different period, despite the advancements that may even reflect a higher sophistication than some of our own breakthroughs today. They seem to have achieved these feats through an entirely different avenue, of scientific knowledge. It seemed to bridge the gap between spirituality and science, a gap that we then widened in the post-cataclysm storyline that our history follows. Before this, though, I think we were very different, perhaps even close to a type 1 civilization, that we're using the energy of the planet, tapping into geothermal energy, geoenergetic materials, piezoelectric forces, electromagnetic forces, the Schumann resonance, telluric fault lines, literally using the planet how it's supposed to be used.
And Plato talked about Atlantis, and so did all these other ancient writings. And you're talking about basically an Atlantean civilization?
Well, I think so. I think that this is something that is implied by this shattered remnants of advanced architecture that seems to share similarities all over the world. I mean, we have to consider the fact that, this cataclysm, this thing that we now understand as the Younger Dryas event, this huge cataclysm that took place across the world would have completely destroyed the surface layer in most of the regions of the planet. The only things that are really surviving are these subterranean complexes and these shattered remnants above ground that we then scan and realize have got these incredibly vast systems. One example, like I said just a minute ago, is Abydos in Abydos. If anyone hasn't heard of the Osirian in Abydos, look that up. That is not Egyptian architecture. That is something entirely different. So yeah, I think it does. I think it speaks to a pre-flood civilization.
Yeah. What should folks look up again? I'll have the crew look it up. Go ahead and...
It's the Osirian. I want to say it's spelled Oserion, and that's in Abydos, which is Abydos, and that's a kind of sunken temple. And it's completely contradictory to the architecture of dynastic Egypt, and actually has more of a similarity to places like Sacsayhuaman and areas in Peru, these prehistoric cultures that had this incredible cyclopean stone building process where they stacked these stones and fitted them together. This is a shared architectural knowledge that seems to be echoed throughout prehistory, almost no matter where you go in the world.
All right. Again, what do people search again?
The Osirian, Abydos, Oserion.
Osirian, Abydos. All right, yeah.
Abydos, yeah.
And I've researched a lot of this, but over time I forget it all. But I know you're more of an expert. The mainline Egyptologists are always claiming that the little junky pyramids that are tiny next to the three big ones, that, those were earlier where they were learning how, but more and more scientists look at it and say, no, those are people trying to copy it. And if you look at all this around the world, you'll see these big giant things that doesn't look like any science we've got today can even build, scientists say. And then you'll see the later, newer stuff built to it that's just a ridiculous facsimile. And that really the little small pyramids are not the old pyramids. They're people trying to copy them later.
Yeah, I think so. I think it implies a copycat culture that was trying to get to the place that we once were. I mean, you talked about Plato and the story of Atlantis. Well, where we actually get the story of Atlantis from is from Plato's great-great ancestor. I think it's like his great-great-great-grandfather Solon, who was a sacred sage of ancient Greece. And he traveled to the city of Sais in ancient Egypt, and he spoke with the priests in the temples, and he wanted to talk about the antiquities. And this is where they gave him the story of Atlantis, because apparently the priests basically laughed at Solon and said, you Greeks don't have any comprehension of history. There have been many rises and falls before our time, before your time. And that's where the Atlantis story was actually originally given. It was given to Solon, who passed it down to Plato. And, this is one of the only times where we just kind of radically dismiss Plato as less of a historian and more of a, either a theologian or a kind of metaphor.
Well, remember, they thought where he said Troy wasn't there, and then they found that 20 years ago.
Precisely, and he was very specific with the geology of the area, and there's some questions about where exactly that might be in the planet. There's a few different locations, but no, I think that this is such a radical upheaval in the status quo of history and archaeology. I think and I know that you understand this, Alex, I think the implications run very deep into systemic control, into consciousness control, because if you can completely blank out this incredible, I would say, golden age of history on Earth, and we don't know that this is our history, we don't know that this is what we're building up from, I think that takes a lot away from us as a human species. And I think that there's a lot of powerful institutions that have a vested interest in keeping the antiquities very much under wraps when it comes to these things. But this is why a study like the one that's being done right now is so important, because it's this, it's a breakout of the status quo, it's a breakout of the model, and I'm very excited to see where it's all going to go.
And we know that Hitler was obsessed with it and hauled off a bunch of Babylonian ruins to Germany. We know that the Pergamon Gate, all of that. We know that the British Royal Museum's obsessed and won't let the public see hardly any of it. We know that they think a lot of stuff that was in the Library of Alexandria was actually somewhere else. The big question is how secretive they've been in Egypt for really 100 years, and the British involved heavily, keeping researchers out, not letting people look in all these areas. And then we have already found with other ground penetrating radar that they did find all this other stuff that history said was there. Now, as they go deeper, they find more and more and more and more and more. I think it's safe to say that the whole globalist shadow government has been in there and has been down in there and is using a lot of this information to build some of the advanced breakaway civilization they've got. I think it's a safe bet to say that folks finding this with ground penetrating radar, that that the bad guys are probably down in there right now.
Oh, without a doubt. You and I both have, done research into the black budget and technology and aerospace capabilities, you more than probably anyone else on the planet. So, the implications of off the books classified technology being deployed that's much further ahead than our own is extremely likely. And I'm sure they've done that research, and I'm sure they've done that analysis. And there's a vested interest to keep, the mainstream and the grassroots people like these individuals out of the picture. That's not happening now. These guys have pushed into the forefront, and now it's up to them to fully evidence these claims. They believe they've got very provocative evidence. They're going to be releasing, I believe, in 9 days' time from today, the full presentation from the conference, and I imagine a lot of information will be coming from that point. But this is probably the most important thing that's ever happened in archaeology. This would trump Göbekli Tepe and any other type of discovery if all of these things are true about the Giza Plateau. And historically, there's these references. We know that there's been cover-ups. We know that there's been information suppressed. Some of it's managed to leak out. This is another example of that, and it's a big one. It's a real big one.
Now, in your report and other reports, and in their full report, and they've been doing this for years now, they're just now starting to publish more of it. And their full big report, as you say, is coming out in 9 days.
Yeah.
So we've got stuff going back 3 years till now. That they've gone out and leased, spent a lot of money on these private satellites. But I can tell you, the U.S. government and others have way more powerful ground penetrating radar to know where Iranian bases are, Russian bases. The Russians, the Chinese have these systems as well. So imagine what the government knows with satellites that are classified, but we know extremely powerful, that can just look into mountains, look into everything. Imagine what they found. Imagine what else is out there. Because as you said, there's all sorts of, all over Eastern Europe, all over the place, there are what people thought were mountains, and now they're scanning them, and they're actually pyramids and just have stuff growing all over them. What is going on with these pyramids?
Well, I think that this is speaking to a pyramid culture of some form. And one of my research avenues into prehistoric sites has been a real focus on something called psychoacoustic architecture. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term.
I've heard of it, but tell folks about it. And I'm only showing Prometheus because Ridley Scott, when this came out 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was, he said, no, I believe that life came from other planets. This is my origin story. This is my Adam and Eve story. This is my human origin story. And it turns out the globalists, none of them are really atheists. None of them actually believe that magically salt in the ocean turned into life. They openly say this. And then in the movie, there's this pyramid that's a biological weapons base of the humanoids that actually created Earth. And then they learned that they were on a mission to destroy the Earth, but the weapon got out and killed them. But that doesn't matter because humans come and find the weapon. I mean, it's just wild how the globalists are just openly telling us what they really think.
Yeah, that's another thing that's really worth talking about at length is just the weaving of narratives and, the kind of social programming through Hollywood that's given us these types of implications about ancient history or how these things might have been used. But like I was saying, if anyone's interested in this is very much a thread that I've been pulling on in regards to prehistoric past, and it's called psychoacoustic architecture. And this is something specifically in relation to prehistoric megaliths and sacred sites, is the study of purposeful engineering techniques deployed in these structures that manipulate sound waves, producing acoustic effects that are only now being rediscovered by modern science to have profound impact on human consciousness, elevating our coherence levels, increasing brain hemisphere synchronization, neural plasticity, and even potentially access to higher density fields of quantum information. So this is the next generation of quantum biological science, and yet evidence of its usage is represented in the most ancient stone structures littering our world. We're talking precision geometry aligning massive multi-ton stones into celestial alignments with absolute accuracy, and not just any stones, mind you, very specific stones such as limestone and rose quartz granite, what are known as geoenergetic materials that amplify sound waves and can even produce electrical charge through mechanical stress. And mechanical stress can be applied through acoustical vibration, right? So generating energy, generating electrical behaviors through specific acoustic resonances. And this is not just one site or two sites. This psychoacoustic engineering is found across the world, from my country in England with Stonehenge, to Ireland with Newgrange, to Egypt with many sites, including the pyramids, Malta with the Hypogeum of Halseflieni, one of the best examples, actually, of prehistoric psychoacoustic architecture. And they're in Peru and Mexico and all over the world.
And anybody that goes these places has mystical experiences, even though they don't believe in God. And that's because it's energetically built on ley lines where they now know that there's energy coming up out of the core.
Yes.
And so basically, in layman's terms, these things are like a drug temple, but it's not drugs. It's chemically manipulating the neurons in the brain. And like, I'd never even researched this or knew about that part. When I walked up to Stonehenge the first time, there a few times, it was back when you still go up to it. The first time, you're not going to let you get near it. I walk past this line and feel like, ring, and I see this older park ranger, and he goes, yeah, about a third of the people have it. And I sit there and watch people all day walk across that line. And he goes, we think it has something to do with like the rods and cones in people's brains that we all have. Same way birds can, follow electromagnetics from where they're born, in North America, down to Central or South America, same thing with hummingbirds or everything. And everybody has these, but he was saying he watches people all day walk across that line, and about 30% of people literally feel it, especially the first time you go across it. I remember just being energized. I was like, okay, it was like I walked over a field, and I think that's what you're getting at.
Oh, completely. This is, in my opinion, this is a lost technology of a lost era that we label as the Stone Age. And well, it was the Stone Age, but not how we think about it. It was the age of holistic sciences, of natural energy manipulation, alchemy and shamanism, entangled with mathematics and engineering. And the implications are staggering. I mean, this is something I'll be highlighting in a documentary that I'm working on. I was over at the islands of Malta recently, which is actually an island which has the largest concentration of prehistoric megaliths and temples in the world, alongside indigenous stories of a race of giants that built them and the discovery of elongated skulls inside the acoustic temples. Very,
and
very
then we have Genesis in the Bible and all these other ancient texts talking about the giants quite literally. And then the preachers tell us, take it literally, but oh, don't take that literally. Stay right there. I want to come back. You sent us some exclusive video that's coming up in your film soon. We've got a whole list of other areas, not just what we're seeing at the Great Pyramid Giza complex. Stay right there. Jay Anderson, the Project Unity. We're going to start the next hour and come right back to him in a moment. Viewers, listeners, the federal judge just came out and said he's not allowing the sale of InfoWars. And if that's the case, it's going to go back to state courts, and they're going to try to shut us down in a matter of weeks or a month. It's been a long fight. And boy, I tell you, we built the Alex Jones Backup Network. We got a lot of this stuff going on, but we need your support. We make it easy. The very best supplements, the very best quality products, and another limited edition trench knife, stainless steel, brass knuckles for defense, skull crusher, 10-inch stainless steel, razor sharp blade with the scabbard. This is for defense. This is amazing.